Hey guys, there is breaking news coming out of the Star Wars universe. Kathleen Kennedy, if you are not aware of who she is the co-founder of Amblin, she's the president of Lucasfilm, she is the breaker of glass ceilings, all-around badass. Think of her as Beyonce for nerds. She's the first of her name. She is our Khaleesi. She spoke with Entertainment Weekly, and here's what she had to say. It's a conversation that's going on right now. I have to honestly tell you, could we do nothing but standalones? Sure, but I don't know. We're looking at all of that. Basically, she was saying, depending on what happens with Rogue Nation, we may or may not move away from sagas.
Rogue One.
Oh my God.
Rogue Nation was ahead.
If Rogue Nation goes
Rogue Nation was
crazy.
ahead.
Wow, yeah. If Rogue One, depending on what happens, we'll see what goes on, whether or not there are sagas. Are we going to have more episodes? Are we going to move only exclusively into standalone films? Will there be a Lando Calrissian movie? What happens? What do you guys want to see? Do you want to see episodes? Do you want to see a single film, Roth?
Yeah, I think that, right, exactly. Setting this up is, she's been prompted to talk about where they're headed and what they may do in the future. And all of this is resting on the success of this film. It's coming out in just a couple of weeks. This is their first standalone effort. They've obviously got the Han Solo movie in development. If this is huge, now nothing is going to be what Episode 7 was. Just nothing is going to be that again, I don't think. That was a phenomenon. I guess the only other thing that you would liken that to is when the Phantom Menace came out, right, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it was a phenomenon. But if this does really good business, and they feel like they're going to run out of story to tell with the Skywalker family and that saga, then this could be a way for them to go.
See, what bums me out about this is I feel like they're setting it up almost for failure in some ways. Like they're hedging their bets. Because I feel like there's been so much talk about reshoots, about what's going on behind the scenes, that it's almost like they're saying, okay, well, we'd like to do more of these, and we're talking about that, but if it goes badly, we'll go back to what we already are known for. So I feel like she's trying to sort of preempt whatever people might react to. What do you think?
Well, it's what X-Men did. X-Men reached a point where it said, we are going to either do standalone stories or we're going to continue to make sequels. They put out X-Men Origins Wolverine. It was terrible, and they took the Magneto movie, folded it into First Class, rebooted everything, then combined it, rebooted it. I don't know what they're doing now. But, I think that the knock against Disney is it's a blessing and a curse. Because what Disney's doing right now is they are absolutely committed to creative success, and they have people that are interested in the characters, but the cost of that is you're gonna make 1 or 2 movies a year, every year, and that's just how it is. There's gonna be a Star Wars every year, there's gonna be at least 2 Marvel movies every year. They're gonna do the best they can to make them good, but it's not gonna be like, okay, let's take a couple years to find our place. That's where I wonder, like, I'm on the record, I've said it many times before, I don't like this trend of endless storytelling, of just episode 8, episode 9, episode 10, episode 11, episode 12, 13, 14, 15. I think it's soap opera syndrome. It's just like there's no end to it. So if they said, hey, we're gonna do episode 9, that's gonna wrap up the saga story, I'd be fine with that. But the alternate side is, if you wanna come up with standalone stories, that's great. From a business sense, I get why it's tough to do, because unless you're doing a young Han Solo movie, or they're talking about an Obi-Wan movie with Ewan McGregor, or you're doing a young Yoda movie, or a Rogue One with the Death Star. If you're doing a standalone movie, whether it has Star Wars on it or not, if it's not something people are familiar with, you're selling a new movie.
I don't know about that.
You are. You're selling a new movie unless people say like, oh, I remember that.
I think that's the fear with Rogue One. That's,
Right.
I think, why people are nervous about Rogue One. Roth, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that I think for a lot of people, look, there's all kinds of Star Wars fans, right? They're the people that have read every single book in the expanded universe, and I'm not talking about the expanded universe now, like the actual, like, now sort of not in canon expanded universe. There's people that love the movies. There's people that watch Clone Wars and Rebels. And if you look at Rebels, now this isn't a smash hit TV show, but it's not based on any characters that we already knew. The standout character from Clone Wars was Ahsoka, absolutely. Speaking of solo films, I want. I understand what you're saying, but if you look at the Marvel model, they're pulling characters that the mass audience is not familiar with, and it's still working if they make a good enough movie out of it. And I think that you could do the same thing with Star Wars, and I think that there are some Star Wars fans that feel like this is the Skywalker family saga, that's my Star Wars and I want to watch that. But if you get to the end of this current trilogy and it feels like there's no more story there for right now, then maybe this is a way to move forward with the franchise.
That's true. I mean, that is true. Marvel is able to sell some new characters. So you're right. They do have a blueprint excitement for it, but I think it's almost through sheer will sometimes. I mean, the sell in Doctor Strange and Ant-Man and Guardians was so, I mean, they had to really sell the crap out of those movies, as opposed to like Star Wars Episode 9. They can make no trailers, they can make no advertisements, and it was still the biggest. You just had to say Episode 9.
What's the thing that you were the most excited about when you walked into Force Awakens? What were you actually really hyped for? What were you looking forward to? And then I want you to answer the same question, but tell me what you're really looking forward to with Rogue One.
That's tricksy of you. I see where you're going with that. You're setting us up for something here.
I can tell you what I was excited about in Rogue Nation.
I walked into Episode 7, I would say, with more trepidation than excitement, just because I'd been burned before, and I didn't want this to be another source of pain. And I was very pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed that movie a lot. Rogue One, what I'm really going in there looking for is, are you going to really tell a story with this whole Death Star thing being the backdrop of telling a really compelling story with great characters? That would be amazing. Or is it going to be just trotting out things that you remember and hoping to coast on that kind of nostalgia? Obviously, the one that I would like is the compelling story with the backdrop of the Death Star. That's what I'm going to be going into it.
You know, I feel like for me, the story, I think the relationship between the father and daughter in Rogue One is the one that I'm most looking forward to seeing, because there's a lot of meat to that bone in terms of not only does it relate, obviously, to the larger Star Wars story, but he's had to betray, I think, based on, because I do like speculating, I'm not going to lie. That's part of the fun for me. I want to see if the things that I thought were going to happen are going to happen. But I think that there's a potential for a very rich emotional journey with that, where he's had to betray everything he truly believes in, and she's had to rise up and be the woman, that he couldn't be. Be the human being that he couldn't be, because he was forced against his will to do something that betrayed everything about himself and what he truly believed in. That's like a pretty great character story.
When you go into Rogue One, do you think that they are going to be looking for a character that they can spin out?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
100%. I mean, that's where...
Jen Erso is who I assume, yeah?
Jen Erso, yeah, but you never know. There are these background characters that sometimes end up striking a chord with audiences and can spin off something their own way. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, because, you know, there's only... This Rogue, the strange corner they painted themselves into with Rogue One particularly is that it butts up so close to the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, that there's not a whole lot of time to stretch with, unless you're going to do the Back to the Future thing, where it's like, meanwhile, while this was happening, which it could get a little flashbacky. So it'll be interesting to see with these stories. Like, I wouldn't mind, you know, if they want to do interesting one-character stories taking place during different eras. That's interesting to me.
It's a universe.
Yeah, but it's also a universe.
It's a whole
universe that you can explore.
Well, let's actually break down what she said. She said, it's a conversation that's going on right now. I have to honestly tell you, could we do nothing but standalones? Sure. So it seems like the question there was, do you plan on doing just strictly standalones? I don't know. We're looking at all of that. She's not saying anything truly definitive, but I think that the thing that is being questioned is, with the Han Solo movie, with Rogue One, how are you tying this greater universe together?
Yeah.
Right.
And how do you create characters who do become the new Han Solo? And in saying that, I'm not talking about Alden Ehrenreich, or however we're pronouncing his name.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, how do you create a new Han Solo character? How do you create a new Yoda, where people for generations are going to glom onto that character and want to see it 30 years down the line?
I think that they're trying... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that I think the main thing that she's looking at, what I think she's hinting at here, is that the Star Wars story has always been told, at least the saga, the main saga, has always been told in trilogies.
Yes.
And I think that she knows, after Episode 9 in a few years, that they're going to be at a turning point where they will have completed a trilogy of films, they will have completed a story, and they're going to be at a point where they do have to ask this question. Do we start a new trilogy, or do we branch off into all these different directions?
I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think that what they're trying to do, look, all of these things are connected, right? There are characters in Rebels and Clone Wars that are in the movies, that are in the books, that are in the comics. Like, everything does interweave a little bit. But I think you can't plan which character is going to be the standout. Like, that's what to your point, you can't predict. Nobody can predict that. Who knew that Han Solo was going to be the character that was going to be as beloved as he was when he was first making that movie? He didn't know that.
Or that Poe Dameron would. Who
I was going to say,
Poe Dameron is such a small.
Yeah.
When you look at the big picture of The Force
When you cast
Awakens.
Oscar Isaac, I feel like you gotta
have an idea.
Or even things like Traitor, like that one line. Who would have thought that would take off? Like, you never know what people are going to connect to.
Well, I know for sure that I would like to see more Chewbacca. That's just me. But we want to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. Tweet us at SJ News. And of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news. We'll be back soon with more. Thanks.